and everything had to be controlled by the state. So licenses, quotas, etc. came to being. Now it was unsuited for India because the British in 1857, when they found that the peasantry of India had supported Rani Jhansi and others for the great revolution or rebellion against British rule, they decided that once they crush it, they will break the back of the peasantry of India. And that's why they introduced systems like Zamindari system. The Zamindari system meant all the criminals were empowered to collect revenue for the British administration, but they were given permission to collect as much as they wanted, provided a fixed amount was without fail given to the British to run the administration in India. And these people were also given power that if a farmer could not pay, then they can extract the same amount from his brother or take away the jewels of his wife. And this is the process by which Indian agriculture became poorer and poorer, and by 1947 the poorest. And at that time we should have given focus, priority to agriculture, but we did not, and we paid a heavy price when there was a famine in it was a potential famine in 1965 when we had to depend on ships of food from the United States. That humiliation led to Lal Bahadur Shastri would become Prime Minister then to set up a team, and that came to the improved seeds, varieties, etc., and ultimately led to Green Revolution, and we began producing enough food so that we didn't have to import. So crisis has made a lot of difference to India. We had a foreign exchange crisis in 1990, and that's how we got rid of the Soviet system and brought in market economy. And I think we Indians should never be afraid of crises, because every crisis we have improved. So therefore, all Indians need to come together in a crisis. I find 62, we had a crisis after the Chinese attack. We all came together, and in every occasion I've seen that is the situation. Today, because of the fact that we have after China, the highest investment rate, but we are not using it efficiently because of corruption, because of government mismanagement, bureaucracy, red tape, all these factors. The day we start using capital as efficiently as, say, Japan, India would have a growth rate of lead us. The United States has become an because we need innovations. Many of the things that we today are limitation factors, like crude oil. We import 86% of our crude oil from the Arab countries, and also some from Latin America. But this costs us a lot of money, and therefore we need to find substitutes. And one of the innovations that we think should be brought into India is the use of hydrogen fuel cells for transportation. And there the Americans are not doing research because they've got so much oil, the oil companies are preventing research. But I think we need to learn from whatever the Americans so far have done and use it for our purpose. We have all kinds of quarrels between states for lack of water, particularly say Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. And both of them have long coastlines. If you desalinate seawater, I've said repeatedly to Tamil Nadu, don't have a quarrel with Karnataka. All you need to do is these desalination plants which now run on solar energy. You make 4 or 5 of them, you'll get enough water for the whole of Tamil Nadu. Plus you can also pump water in the opposite direction of Kaveri river so that Karnataka can also get some water. But the quarrel continues because whenever there's a water shortage in Tamil Nadu, the water tanker entrepreneurs make a lot of money and they give a big cut to politicians. And therefore, this water problem will never be solved as long as this mentality is there. So, but these technologies available with Israel, and with the American assistance, we can get all these put in. Tomorrow, if we can use the world is running out of uranium. By 2050, there will be no uranium. And the Americans have quietly started looking for alternatives, and the alternative is thorium. And we were surprised to know 60% of the world's thorium is in India, on the sands of Kerala and Tamil Nadu. One day I saw a news item that somebody has been arrested for smuggling sand out of India. I know which crazy person will export sand out of India. And then it was explained to me that the Indian sand in the southern coast of Tamil Nadu, that has the monazite which produces thorium. And if you can convert thorium into U-233, that is into uranium of a lower isotope, then we can run reactors which are clean reactors. Thorium reactors are completely environmentally clean. And the whole country can get plenty of power. There will never be a power shortage in our country. So all these are there, but we are waiting for technology to come, and it is here our greatest cooperation with the Americans to benefit us. Cooperating with the Americans, working with the Americans is not an easy task, because the Americans are not used to partners, they are used to junior partners. I don't think they have an equal partnership with anybody. Japan or Europe, it's the Americans who are the senior partners. So the Americans have to learn a little lesson from us that they have to deal with India on a basis of equality. And they cannot be with India and Pakistan at the same time. They'll have to make a choice. So there are many, it's not an easy proposition to deal with Americans. But Americans are practical people. I have negotiated with them when I was Commerce Minister. One day we had a huge foreign exchange crisis at that time. We were on the verge of bankruptcy, the verge of default. When the Prime Minister, Mr. Chandrasekhar, asked me, somehow get us $2 billion. So I didn't know where to get those $2 billion, because the IMF said they will not give without conditions, and those conditions were humiliating conditions. So just then I got the American ambassador seeking an appointment. They gave him the appointment. He came and he said, the Gulf War is about to start, and we know you are not, you're a person who's not hostile to the United States. So we have planes which have to fly out from Philippines to Saudi Arabia, and they need to refuel, and we want to refuel in India. So I immediately saw an opportunity. I said, that means a change in our policy. We have never had this done before. So the ambassador said, I know you can do it. I said, but it's going to cost some money. So he said, yes, we'll give you 3 times the landing rates that you give to commercial aircraft. I said, well, that's peanuts. I mean, you want us to change policy for just some 3 times the that won't do. He said, how much do you want? I said, $2 billion from the IMF without conditions. So he said, what have you got to do with with the IMF? I said, you have got 86% of the voting rights in the IMF. If you decide, you can do it. And you can make it a history by giving for the first time a loan without conditions. So he said, well, I mean, that will take a little time. Today is Friday. When do you want it? I said, Monday. He said, Monday. I said, yes, it's Friday in Delhi, but it's Thursday night in Washington. You have the whole day ahead of you. If you want us to change policy, you have to also do us sweat a little. Bring it on Monday or don't come back. And on Monday, we got the check for $2 billion. That's the way. Donald Trump got elected, I took a bet with the top official of the Prime Minister's office because the entire India was convinced that Hillary was going to win. The polls were showing 12% lead at one stage for Hillary. And when I took this bet, of course the bet was not very expensive bet, I said dinner at any place of my choice or of your choice, depending on who wins. And this is the principal secretary of the Prime Minister who took a bet. He said all our embassies are predicting in Europe and that Hillary is going to win. I said, I'm telling you, this is going to be Trump. So I won the bet and I got my dinner. But the reason I did is that I had come to address a meeting in New York. And I met one of your, what they call it, the NRA Indian, one of our Indians who had settled down in New York. And I asked him, and I've known him for a long time, it was Arish Sahani, his name is. And I asked him, who's going to win? He said, Trump. I said, Trump? Are you serious? He said, yeah. I said, how do you know? He said, see, I sell insurance policy. And I go from house to house. And I usually, the lower middle class is who I speak to. They never go and vote in an election. But this time they said, all these fancy guys who speak all this politically correct stuff, we are fed up with them. This time we are all going to vote and going to vote for Trump. So based on that input, I took a thing, and that's exactly what happened. Vast chunks of people who didn't vote in most elections, and the American voting is 45% and less, whereas in India we have 65%, but they this time went and voted. And that's how it's shown in Trump's case. Trump is a businessman. He believes in negotiation. And I think we can do business with him. Only Narendra Modi needs to have some tough negotiators because we still get easily carried away. This time we allowed the Americans to dock in our ports without asking a penny. So compare that with my letting them refuel in the thing and getting $2 billion. I would have got $100 billion for this. So we need tough negotiators. But that's the only way to do it, because I feel, having lived many years in America, that the Americans, if you get something for them without giving something, then they think you're a rascal. And if you give something without taking something, then they think you're stupid. So if you want equal respect from the Americans, you need to negotiate. What are the things to negotiate? And is it feasible? First of all, both America and India have a common major problem, and that is Islamic terrorism. We've got to deal with it. And we have to deal with it, even if necessary, outside our borders, because if you don't deal with it outside our borders, it may come to our borders, particularly for India. Because today, Pakistan is a basket case. People say negotiate with Pakistan, negotiate with whom? There are at least 5 governments in Pakistan. One is the Nawaz Sharif's government, then the military government, then the ISI government, and then the Taliban government, and then there are these other terrorists, you see, Hafiz Saeed, and these are running Pakistan independently. And the least important government is the elected government of Pakistan, namely Sharif. He's a literal dummy, you see, so no point in negotiating with him. And we have to prepare for a situation where the militants may take over. Militants may take over Pakistan. And already we have information that some key people of ISIS have come and settled down in Pakistan. We have ISIS people in Tamil Nadu and in Kerala. They're not big in numbers, but they are there, it started. The process of people going to Syria and getting training and coming back started. So we have to deal with this problem. The problem with Islamic terrorism is that they say in their publications that India is an unfinished chapter of Islamic history. Why? Because they say that Islam invaded Persia, the Zoroastrians were ruling, conquered it. In 15 years they made Iran into a Muslim country, 100% Muslim country. Then the neighboring part, the Mesopotamia, Babylon, which has now become Iraq, they did it in 17 years. Egypt was converted into an Islamic, 100% Islamic country in 21 years. The Christians converted Europe into Christianity in 50 years. But in India, 800 years of Islamic rule and 200 years of Christian rule of the British, we are still 80% Hindu. And that is because Indians never gave up fighting. Whether it was Shivaji, who won victories, or it was Rana Pratap, who lost but with utter courage inspired people. The Vijayanagara Empire, which lasted 300 years and went right up to the borders of Bengal. And of course, in the history books, there will be at most one small paragraph that in South India there was a Hindu dynasty called Vijayanagara. If I ask the students about Vijayanagara, nobody knows. That's our problem with our history books. Then the Guru Gobind Singh in Punjab, who liberated good parts of India, and same thing with the Ahom dynasty. The Assam, these Thais came to Assam, settled down, adopted Hinduism, and founded an empire called Ahom dynasty, and never let the Mughals cross into Burma. 3 times the Mughals tried and they were beaten. In fact, the original Caliphate of Umar, they came to India in 700 AD, and the dynasties of Gujarat, Maharashtra and Andhra got together and beat them so much that the Caliphate could not arise for another 1,000 years. So therefore, the Indian history, the correct Indian history, is one which says that the Indians never subjugated themselves. They may have been foolish, like Prithviraj Chauhan, who this Gori came and forgave him, sent him back. I don't know how many times. Some people say 17 times, 18 times, whatever. That foolishness should not be repeated. If ISIS comes, there is no question of forgiving them. You send them to the bottom of the Arabian Sea. That's the only solution that we can do. So this ISIS is a big problem, and we have got to deal with it. The Americans, they don't have a stomach for much casualty. If there's more than 20 casualties a week, then they think of packing up and leave. It happened in Vietnam, it happened in Afghanistan, it happened in Iraq. So, but the Americans have very good weaponry. So, if want to do a deal with Trump, I would say, so Trump, we are ready to send soldiers to fight ISIS in Syria or wherever you want us to, and we were the finest fighting troops of the whole world. But I've opened this to so you open your warehouses and let us pick what planes we want and what tanks we want. And you give it to us free and we will fight free for you. We need a collaboration. The United States, Israel, and India. Israel, because of its intelligence network, its capability, its ability to do surgical strikes. Israelis are anyway our very good friends. I can proudly say in 1991 I initiated the process of exchanging ambassadors between India and Israel. So these three, we need to come together to fight terrorism on the basis of our comparative advantages. We have got labor advantages. And I'll tell you, it sometimes moves me when I speak to our captains, because we have always had the highest, in all the wars that we have fought, the highest proportion of deaths is of captains and lieutenant colonels. And in other armies, you will not find this ratio, because they lead from the front. And when I speak to these young captains, they say, we are not, we will put our lives, give our lives for the country as long as our family is looked after. And my children's educations are assured. So that is the kind of valor that we have in the Indian Army. If you make proper arrangements for that, we have a world role to play. And that doesn't mean that just because we are in close alliance with the Americans on meeting the Islamic threat, we don't have to have we don't have relations with other countries. We can have different relations with others. For example, with Iran, we are building a port in Chabahar, and Iran, India, China, and India, they can easily come together to see that places like Afghanistan are supported. Can the Chinese be brought over? In my opinion, they can be. But and when I was in office, I brought them over. I remember the first time I was negotiating with the Chinese was when Morarji Desai asked me to. He was the Prime Minister, and he told me, you know China, you read, I speak Chinese. In fact, Chinese have a wonderful saying, Tien pu pa, ti pu pa, jo pa, yang wei tsu hui shou du hua, which means don't be afraid of the heaven, don't be afraid of the devil, but do be afraid of the foreigner who can speak Chinese. The issue is, you see, so the issue is this with the Chinese. When Morarji asked me, can these Chinese talk to us instead of going on claiming our territory? We are ready to negotiate, why can't they talk to us? I said, that's because you don't put it across the right way. He said, what's the right way? I said, the right way is today they are having big problems with the Soviet Union on an island which is, where which divides China and Siberia. And that is called Usuri River, and they are almost on the verge of war. And you have to tell them that if there is a war between you and Soviet Union, we will be neutral. So Morarji said, of course we are non-aligned. Where is the question of our taking sides? I said, not true, because Indira Gandhi has signed in 1971 a Indo-Soviet Friendship Treaty, which says that if India is in trouble, the Soviet Union will come to our assistance. And if Soviet Union has a problem, India will also come to the assistance of Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union now wants to send troops into India and then go to Tibet. So the Chinese know that. So we tell the Chinese that we will stay neutral. And you see what a change comes place. He told me, why don't you go and tell them? So I told them, you give me a letter, I'll go and tell them. And I did tell them. Their whole attitude changed. Their chairman, Deng Xiaoping, came to Nepal immediately and called the press and said there's a new government in India which is not like the old Indira Gandhi government, and we're ready to do business with them. That's how it changed. And then, of course, I went back and demanded that they open the route to Kailash and Mansarovar. Morarji again told me, they are communist countries, they'll never agree to this. But I said they will agree, and they did agree. And they have never broken that agreement, even no matter how bad our relations with them occasions. But the pilgrims are going freely from India to visit, have darshan of Kailash. So this is the, I believe that it's important for taking care of Pakistan to neutralize China. It's a project, and I don't want to do it this Jawaharlal Nehru way, Bhudan and Shramdan and all the dons that you could think of. Jawaharlal Nehru was very good at giving away Indian territory, and we don't have to do like that. We need to build our strength. One of the strengths is Malacca Strait. That is the Andaman Island, the Car Nicobar Island, the lowest point of that is called now renamed as Indira Point, and across just 90 kilometers is Sumatra, which is Indonesia. And 90% of the Chinese trade travels through that Malacca Strait. Imagine if we and Indonesia have a pact, a naval pact, that we will control this, and everybody who passes through that will have to give us a little fees as they do in the Suez Canal. What a power that would be! So these are the things that we have to do. Now Chabahar, which is just on the other side of Gwadar, only 100 kilometers away. If we have a pact with the Iranians, and the Chinese will also be ready to participate because they have a problem with Gwadar in case we come there, they don't want a conflict. So those are things we must build, in the sense that if you are going to be with the Americans, it doesn't mean that you have to be anti-Chinese or anti-Iranian. We have to see our bilateral interests and work in that basis. But as far as the United States is concerned, we respect that country because it's a democratic country. We respect that country because they've got intellectual traditions of producing innovations, which is good for us. And therefore, we need to have give and take relationship with them. And that give and take relationship will definitely be much more possible with Mr. Trump than would have been ever before. The previous administrations were all run by liberals. And the liberals in this country have always been hostile to a mighty, united India. I don't know what their problem is. Maybe they are influenced by these missionary organizations. I don't know what the issue is. They are constantly saying we are not one country, that they are Dalits who are being with intolerance. I mean, what is this intolerance? We are always tolerant of intolerant people. And it is they who have not been tolerant. Whenever they have done almost everything to suppress us over the years. They have spread canard, lies. In fact, WikiLeaks shows that Rahul Gandhi, his IQ is not very high, but still, he went and told US embassy officials that Hindu terror is more dangerous than Lashkar-e-Taiba. Now, it's there in WikiLeaks, it's not been denied. And in fact, they did a somersault on this Hindu terror thing when this Samjhauta Express. Originally, the government of India said it was the Lashkar-e-Taiba which did it, produced documents, gave to the Americans. The Americans had it vetted by the CIA, and Americans got convinced and told the United Nations, declare LET as a terrorist organization. After that, Mr. Chidambaram, who's going to jail very soon, he declares Hindu terror and does a somersault, and even while there is a FIR naming 5 Muslims who were responsible for the Samjhauta Express derailment and explosion, he says, no, some Purohit is involved, some Pragya is involved, all that, and starts a parallel case. How can you have 2 FIRs for the same crime? We have created history in this by having two now this they are doing, and we have faced all this kind of intolerance. Therefore, I am telling you, there will be all kinds of propaganda that will be let loose, but the liberals in this country are encouraging those forces in India, and the academia is particular. And therefore, we need now to develop in this country an academic tradition to confront the arguments of the liberals. Whether it's Wendy Doniger or somebody else, they are all over the place in the universities. They have been spreading all kinds of wrong things about our thing. The textbook controversy, on which I think the Hindu American Foundation,
The Education Foundation.
yeah, and people like you have been fighting, and I must say it's a commendable fight. Don't give an inch as far as this is concerned. The perception of India as a country that was put together by the British, it's all nonsense, and it is a continuing civilization. You'll be surprised that the British, when they created Pakistan, they had to adopt a bill. So they brought a bill called Indian Independence Act. And that Independence Act was passed, in which they said, we will create out of this India a Pakistan. Because our goal is to create a Muslim governed Pakistan and a Hindu governed India. This is their own parliament. Now we suddenly became secular and said, no, we will not be a Hindu governed thing, but we will be a secular country. That was our decision. But the fact is that the creation of India and Pakistan was based on the principle that India would be governed by Hindus. This is the British who did it. And our constitution, must tell you, has enough Hindu principles that nobody should think that we should need another constitution. Ban on cow slaughter is there in the constitution. Uniform civil code is there in the constitution. That Hindi shall be the link language, but its vocabulary shall be entirely from Sanskrit. This is Article 351 of the Constitution. There is no ban on eating pork, for example. If you were secular, you would have put that also in, that you can't eat pork. But we are not. We have banned cows because it's the sentiment of the Indian people. And the various Hindu cultural principles are all there in the Constitution. Because the original idea was that we will not chase anybody out of India. But the overall principle is that we are a continuing civilization. Yes, there are many other religions like Islam and Christianity who have been in India. They have contributed, some have set up schools, some have given us art or music, etc. But India is like Ganga. It flows, lots of rivers join, but still the name is Ganga. The same way our culture is Hindu, whether there is some Muslim influence. And therefore I don't even say Hindu, I say Hindustan. Hindustan means a nation of Hindus plus those others who accept their ancestors are Hindus. And I can tell you that genetic studies show that Muslims and Christians' genetics, that is DNA, is the same as Hindus. That means their ancestors are Hindus. They should accept it. But their mullahs don't let them accept it. One day Farooq Abdullah told me proudly, my ancestors are Gaud Saraswat Brahmins. So I said, why don't you say it publicly? So he said, are you mad? The mullah will kill me. But that's a fact. This separateness that is being created, we have to overcome it. And the day the Muslims willingly accept, Christians accept, but the way Muslims accept, we have become part of the family. That we are all from the same. We are aligned to this. Now with this mind clear and the way to negotiate, there is a glorious chapter awaiting for us in Indo-US relations. And I think you people who live here should have interactions with all. We have now got Indians who have been, Indian origin people who have been elected as senators and congressmen. And you are in very key places, and therefore the NRI community here, or the overseas Indian community here, has a major role to play for the development of India through healthy bilateral Indo-US relations. Thank you very much.
Swamiji, we have a lot of questions. So, should we take them back?
Yeah, sure. I'm a professor, I have many questions.
You little bit touched upon India Education Foundation. So we have a question related to that from Prasanna Kulkarni, who says, I am one of the volunteers of India Education Foundation, which fights to correct the California World History textbook for more than a decade. But every time we have seen a big anti-India academics try to erase India and erase Hinduism from California textbook. If we take an example of China, which kind of does not issue or reject visas to academicians who indulge in false propaganda, what is the stand of Indian government against such?
Well, it's not true that we don't deny visas. We, for example, had denied visas to the US Congressional or International Religious Freedom Committee. They wanted to come. We have withdrawn the right to receive foreign money and other facilities to the Compassion International. Our government is not all that we would like them to do, but still much better than any previous government. And it's, nobody can take us for granted. And visa, we are a free country, and we will deny visas if we have evidence that they have worked against the concept of a united India or some concrete stuff. But generally speaking, we don't like to deny visas to scholars. They can come and they can debate, but nowadays scholars come, they go to India International Center and then go back. Because outside the Hindutva crowd is ready to go to meetings and ask them questions, which they find is something that they don't want to get into. So, as far as visas is concerned, it will still be guided by the democratic principle that people are free to visit India as long as they don't engage in activities which are inimical to the national interests of India.
Next question is from Shyam Palik, Ravi Mirahu, and Sridhar Sikka. So I will combine few of the questions. So what is India? What is India not doing anything to get back Gilgit-Baltistan? As you know, China built China-Pakistan corridor to kind of choke India in all the directions. That is one of the questions. The next is, what do you think about Kashmir Valley? 27 years have already been passed, but still Hindus are not back there.
That's true.
The last one is on the same topic. Why not India change its policy, reactive policy, to proactive policy towards breaking Pakistan?
Well, first of all, you have three questions. One is breaking Pakistan, second one is Gilgit, and then the third is the valley.
Yeah.
As far as the valley is concerned, we have tried the approach, which has not worked, of trying to co-opt them. We held elections. I must say the people of Valley did come and vote in large numbers. They didn't vote for us, but they certainly came and participated in the elections, despite a fatwa from all the militants that there will be bloodshed, there will be this and that. They came and voted in large numbers. In fact, 68% of the population voted in that election. So we were very happy at that stage. But the militants used force, and now, of course, recently there has been no demonstration, but almost for 4 months, we had every day children coming out and throwing stones at either the army or the police, CRP, police, etc. But it suddenly stopped because the money given to these children was 1,000 rupees if you throw a stone on an army vehicle and 500 rupees if you throw it on a CRP vehicle. But the demonetization has put them into difficulty. Whatever may be the other minuses about demonetization, but this one is still a plus for us because there's peace and quiet, people are going to school and the buses are on the move, state buses, all that. There is normalcy in Kashmir. But one fact I must tell you and say it straightforward. Wherever in any part of any of the world, Muslims are in majority, they are terribly intolerant of minorities. In Saudi Arabia, we have got 20 lakh Hindus who are there working for the economy of Saudi Arabia. But they don't let us build a temple. You cannot celebrate Diwali in Saudi Arabia. You cannot even have Satyanarayana Puja in your house. And in fact, in Kuwait, somebody had Satyanarayana Puja, they arrested 9 people and then deported them. And you cannot carry even Ramchandraji's photograph in your pocket when you go to work. All these invite very severe punishment. Now, when I raised this with the Saudi Arabian visiting minister, he said, that's our religion, and we are practicing it. Now, if we practice our religion on the same principle, there will be such a howl, you see. All right, number one. Number two, I have found that the Muslim population in Australia accepts uniform civil code. In fact, one mullah had made an objection. He said, I don't like this uniform civil code. The Australian Prime Minister should change this and give us Sharia. And the next day, the Australian Prime Minister said, you want Sharia? Then go and fight another country, because in Australia you will not get it. And as a consequence, all Muslim organizations passed resolutions sent to the Prime Minister that we are very happy with Uniform Civil Code. This mullah is a crazy fellow, don't listen to him. Because where the majority is united, the Muslims fall in line. In our country, in Mallapuram, in Kashmir Valley, in any district where they are majority, even town panchayats where they are in majority, they are totally intolerant of every other religion. And so we have a problem, and therefore we can't ask the Kashmiri Pandits to go back and say live there, because they will all be butchered again. And if we have to then put them in an enclosure and protect them, then that's also not a proper way. We have to find some other way, and that some other way we need an excuse, and we are waiting for an excuse. So now the other question of the Gilgit and all that, no? Well, militarily we can take it. The surgical strike we did, I'm a member of the Standing Committee of Parliament on Defence. So, all the materials are shared by the Commander-in-Chief, who comes and briefs us and so on. It was a tremendous effort. There were all kinds of efforts made to devalue it. But 8 groups of Indian soldiers went 20 kilometers, and there were 4 major launching pads. There were launching pads, and they are assembled there to come into India. All 4 launching pads were blown up. Not one scratch on any of our soldiers, and 12 of those terrorists who were in the launching pads were immediately dead, and a number of them injured. It was a strike which was of tremendous efficiency. And for us to go, because there is demonstrations in Gilgit saying that they don't want to be part of Pakistan. So it can be done at any time. But again, we Indians are very formality conscious. So in the case of Bangladesh, we waited till 1 crore refugees came to our country, and then we used that as an excuse. Therefore, Pakistan, it's maybe when you talk about breaking Pakistan, maybe we don't need to do anything. They themselves will break up. Today, Baluchi groups are in Delhi. They explained all the horrible human rights excesses that have been committed. I don't know why the rest of the world is not taking any notice. But in my opinion, it's already become very unviable, and it's something that we can't have a date on. And certainly, if we have a date, we are not going to announce it. But Pakistan will not be tolerated if they make any major attacks. You notice that after the surgical strikes, except a few here and there in Udhampur, nothing has happened. And now, after the demonetization, they don't even have money unless they now counterfeit our new 2000 rupee notes. I don't think that there is for a long time to be there. So don't worry about Pakistan. And if you do business with Trump, he'll be the first one to abandon Pakistan. That will be there.
Next is everybody's favorite current topic. You can guess it. So it's about demonetization.
Yeah.
Question from Vidya, India Post. Ramesh Ponnapalli, Tejas. So there are questions, various questions up to Mamata Banerjee's reaction. What is your views of demonetization, its impact?
You see, in 2014, long before the election, a few months before the election, I think it was January, or end of January, the then Prime Ministerial candidate Narendra Modi asked me to head a committee called Strategic Action Committee. We prepared a report, and we strongly recommended that we must demonetize. But I also, in that report, added a rider that it should be accompanied by preparation for at least 6 times more currency notes of 100 rupees and a new 200 rupee note. And furthermore, abolition of income tax, so that people get a sense of relief that it doesn't matter, we don't mind standing in the queue, but at least income tax has been abolished. Now, in sometime before November 8th, the Prime Minister informed the Reserve Bank and the Finance Ministry that he wants to do this. And there was a meeting of the board, of a special board, of the board of Reserve Bank, which includes officials of the Finance Ministry. And they told the Prime Minister that they are ready. They did not inform him of the fact that we had not printed any new currency. So it has had effect in the sense, it's not so much the people standing in queues, that's more or less over, but it's the collateral damage. For instance, the Bihari migrant workers in Punjab and Tamil Nadu, they, the people who employed them didn't have small currency cash, so they all went back home. Small and medium industries are unable to get loans from banks, and so they are closing down. Real estate industry is in a terrible state. Automobile purchases would be, large amount of purchases were being done by cash. That is stopped, so there's a 30% drop. So there is a collateral damage. Can be that rectified? Of course it will be rectified. In India, I have seen much worse crises and rectified within 2 months or 3 months. But that's not a problem. It was a magnificent move, but we didn't have backup support from the Finance Ministry, and that's the reason why this has happened. I hope when the budget comes, you'll get a pretty fair idea. And Modi himself is devoting his attention almost on a 24-hour basis per day to see that this is rectified.
Different question related to Tamil Nadu. What is the future of Tamil Nadu considering existing political scenario?
See, the problem with Tamil Nadu is the domination of the cinema. we should do it. Uh, because the younger generation is now wants a different approach to politics. I recently addressed one conference in Maharashtra, and in Bangalore, and what we heard from the Tamil delegates is that they are ashamed that they don't understand English or Tamil or Hindi, because it was a national convention, so all of them were speaking either in Hindi or English, and explaining how difficult it is them to get them jobs in North India and so on. So there is a sense of nationalism. I just want the Tamil population to say, we are Indians first and Tamils afterwards. And if there is national interest of India, clashes with the Tamil interests, then the national interest will prevail. And that is the issue I had raised when this LTT matter had come. Okay. And the younger generation is ready for it. And so if BJP, instead of looking for alliances, decides to stand alone, I'm sure that we will come up. But these other people are entrenched. See, this recent Jallikattu thing that the bull run issue, it was I who argued and we just stumped the Supreme Court. What happened is that in 2014, based on a Congress government geo, the Supreme Court banned Jallikattu. Then after we came to power, we superseded that geo, the government order, and issued another one which made the previous judgment null and void. And so the Supreme Court again had to consider whether our new geo is constitutional or not. And the arguments had to be given. I gave arguments. The only time the judge, Justice Deepak Mishra, he asked me, you see, you are constantly talking about violence to animals and so many others, but there is something called essential violence. That is, for instance, we cut the head of a hen. That's because we need to eat food. So that is essential violence. But this Jallikattu is not essential violence. It's inessential violence. And therefore we may have to ban it. I said, in that case, please ban halal also, because halal is inessential violence. You want to eat meat, there's a jhatka way of doing it, instead of, bleeding it to death and making it cry and so on. So, the judges were shocked and they have not given judgment now for quite some time. They must have to get around it. But I will tell you that even if this Supreme Court gives a judgment, we know how to get another law passed by which this judgment also will become null and void, and after that Jallikattu can be. It's a sport which is not against the bull. Anybody getting injured is only the people who try to stop the bull by embracing it. The bull, no, not a single case we have had of a bull which has been hurt or has been killed. In Spain, of course, they put swords into the bull, but they use only bare hands in Tamil Nadu. And these animal activists, you see, I'm not calling them animal, I'm saying they are activists. They are cooking up all this, that their tail is being bitten and they have got mirchi put in their eyes, and all these are all concocted, and most of all they happen to be funded very heavily from abroad. All our traditional arts today are being subject to attacks by so-called NGOs, and therefore I think we have to be determined to oppose it. Now, however, you see, all these Naxalites, those who wanted to secede from India, the Dravidian movement people, LTT leftovers, all these people are attacking me day on day basis, that on the grounds that they say I oppose Jallikattu. Even though my written submissions are there, reports are there that I argued it, because they are afraid that I will be a subversive force as far as they are concerned. They know very well that I openly advocate learning Hindi in Tamil Nadu. I openly advocate bringing Sanskrit as an optional language. So that projection is necessary for bringing back Tamil Nadu into the mainstream of Indian politics, and that is what we will do as BJP. And I think Tamil Nadu is full of very intelligent people. When it comes to brains, I think they are no less than anybody else. And if I may say my Tamil pride, we've got more brains than anybody else. But the fact is that this British had hoped that Tamil Nadu will never be part of India. And in fact, the Dravidian movement went to the governor to say, let the British go out from India, from any other part of India, but not from Tamil Nadu. That was the extent to which these people collaborated. And they ruled the roost for such a long time, and this has to change, and will take a little time.
Yeah, we'll be taking few more questions.
Yes,
Though we have a lot. But some of the topics like Jallikattu, there are questions, but it is already answered, so we'll cut down those questions. Another question from Dr. Jabra of Fremont Hindu Temple. Should we offer conversion back to Hinduism for Muslims who believe in anti-radical Islamism, since genetically they are Hindus?
No, the problem is not that there is a legal bar. There is no legal bar. But they must be acceptable afterwards, you know. We know there were these Rathods in Rajasthan who wholesale converted back to Hinduism and said we are now Rathod Rajputs. And but nobody wanted to have any social interactions like marriage and all with them. That must go. For that, even this caste, you see, this fourfold division of Brahmin, Kshatriya and all that, is become a birth-based. It was never birth-based. If it was birth-based, then how is Vishwamitra, how is he a Maharishi? He is in fact Rishi of Rishis. He was born in a Kshatriya family. So this has it was a division of labor. And this division of labor is that those who pursue knowledge and give up all the worldly pleasures like, you know, property and land and wealth and so on, they were called Brahmins and they were venerated and looked up to. The Kshatriyas had to defend the country, but policy making they had to go and consult the Brahmins. And there was no such rule that we have to be born in a Brahmin house to be a Brahmin. You were born, there was no bar to becoming a Brahmin, but you had to follow that discipline. Now, we have to therefore now move away and go to a casteless, varnaless society. And that is what happened in 2014 election. For the first time, the BJP vote increased from its maximum of 21% to 31% because people rose above their caste and voted for us. Now, if that process continues and we go from 31% to say 40%, then next time we'll get 2/3 majority. And therefore, we don't want all 80% of the Hindus to vote for us. In fact, there are people like Barka Dutt and all, we don't want. So, the Hindu society must now give up all these divisions and prejudices and say we are one. And then, you see, it will be easy for bringing people back. I may tell you, however, unpublicized, what you are saying is already going on.
Next question from Jaideep Dey. He said, recently there have been various riots in West Bengal, Malda, where Hindus had to flee villages. Imams of Kolkata Mosque issue fatwa on Prime Minister. Why is central government not intervening? Why Hindus of West Bengal are not protected by center?
I would say we are not intervening, but we are not taking precipitous action because it's a subject that has to be dealt very carefully. However, Mohan Bhagwat addressed a rally and with a very big rally, even though they were put the conditions on it, and there was no reaction from any sort of party, because he spoke what he spoke is what he always speaks. And he said only this, that we are Hindus are weak because we are divided. He didn't say about anybody else, and that's our position. In Calcutta also, it's wrong to say that Hindus don't support Mamta ji. Mamta herself is a Hindu. She goes to Durga Puja and doesn't hide the fact. But she is, this vote, you see, is driving nuts. The day, once Mulayam Singh, he told me, Mulayam Singh is a dear friend of mine. One day I asked him, why are you doing all this? Everybody is calling you Mullah from Mulayam, you see. So he said, मुझे तो वोट चाहिए. जिस दिन हिंदू इकट्ठा हो जाएगा, मैं भी जय श्री राम बोलकर टीका लगा के घूमूंगा. It's a fact that this Hindu disunity is the reason why people are doing this appeasement of minorities. That it appears that the Hindus are going to vote as Hindus, and for those who speak for Hindus, not necessarily speak against anybody else, but speak for Hindus, people vote for them. You will see that Mamta herself will become a Hindu fanatic.
Last three questions. How should we move forward with Right to Education Act, 93rd Amendment?
Well, I mean, there are lots of problems with the Right to Education Act, and I'm frankly, I'm not come to any conclusion, so I'm not in a position to answer this question. But there are problems we need to straighten out because of its implications on certain sensitive issues.
Next question related to Sheldon Pollock, whose project is the translation of Indic text. How can we stop it?
Well, I mean, he can publish it. Don't read it, that's all. I agree with Rajiv Malhotra's assessment of Pollock. And it's time that, these foreigners who start interpreting our ancient traditions without due debate and interaction, we should not encourage them. But if somebody gets a publisher and he has not said anything which is against the law, I don't think we should stop such publication.
Last question from Rakshit and Avinash about Ram Mandir. How we can build Ram Mandir and when?
You have time for a long answer?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
You see, I previously never took interest in these matters till both the then Sanjalak Sudarshan and Ashok Singhal came to my house one day to urge me to go to the Supreme Court and stop the demolition of Ram Setu. So I was successful. I mean, everybody else had failed in the past. Many went and tried to stop it because the Supreme Court refused to listen. But then when I went, they not only listened, but they gave me a stay order. The only question the judge asked me is, what is this Ram Setu that you have come for? Who will go to the middle of the ocean and do puja? So I said, Your Lordship, every day I do puja to the Lord Sun, but I don't go to the sun. So this kind of prejudices have been built in through our English education. As far as Ram, I entered the picture after having won the case in Allahabad High Court. After how many? From 1994 to 2000, that's 16 years. Allahabad High Court took to decide the case and decided that the central dome where the Babri Masjid had once stood, there is no Babri Masjid now, that belongs to Ram Lala. The principle was that in Hindu tradition, if a mandir is made after Prana Pratishta Puja, the Lord enters the murti. And once he enters, he becomes the owner. We can be trustees, but we cannot be owner. So the court said that this is unanimous faith in India that Ram was born in this particular spot. In fact, that's where the central dome of the Babri Masjid once stood, and therefore it is given to the Hindus for the construction of a Ram temple. Against that, the Muslim parties have come to the Supreme Court. They came in 2010 after the judgment, and for 6 years it was lying in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court gave a stay and said that no further action will be taken on the Allahabad High Court judgment till we have heard the matter. Now, finally, Ashok Singhal, he was very ill. He called me up and said, I am giving you this task. Henceforth, you will do what I was doing. And he took me to a press conference and announced it. So I had to take interest in it. Now, I don't know how to get into it because there are already, a large number of parties. They would not let me come into it as an intervener. But I studied the petitions of appeal. The Muslim argument is not that our religious place was demolished, but that this property belongs to us. Now I was surprised, you see, why didn't I make this religious argument? Then I did some study. I spoke to, as I said, the Saudi Arabian minister who once came finance minister. I spoke to him. And he educated me that masjid is only a prayer hall. It is not a religious place in the sense that it cannot be touched. In Saudi Arabia, they demolish masjids on a regular basis to build roads, to build apartment buildings. Or they shift it. If you go to Google, you will get it. Saudi Arabia and demolition of masjids, you just put and you will get all these examples. Qatar, Yemen, or Pakistan, all of them demolish masjids. Turkey Prime Minister once even said in a press conference that building a road is more important than preserving masjids. Masjids can be built somewhere else. So after all, then let them build Babri Masjid, but across the river Saryu, and this property should be given to building a Ram temple. This seems like a reasonable compromise. So I said, how do I get into it? So then I came to the conclusion that I will go to the Supreme Court and say, these people are fighting over property. Even the Hindu parties are, the Akhadas and all are saying, this is our, we were running the temple, so it should be handed over to us. They are also, in a sense, arguing on property. I said, they are all arguing property. But under Article 25 of the Constitution, I have a fundamental right to worship in a Ram temple, which I believe should be where the Ram was born, and that place I must be allowed to go and worship. Right now my worship is restricted. There is a makeshift temple, but that makeshift temple, you see, has all kinds of restrictions. So I can bear with some limitations of my fundamental rights for some time, but not forever. 6 years have gone by, it's not happened, I have a fundamental right. Moreover, Muslims have no problems on fundamental right because they can worship, do namaz anywhere. They can do namaz on a railway platform, on the open road, they can do it here, they can do it there, anywhere they can do. So there is no restriction on the Muslim community on reading namaz. And they can, if they want, we can also build them a nice masjid across Saryu river. But for me, there is a interference with my with our fundamental rights. So the Supreme Court said, you know so many facts, why don't you get into the main matter? I said, who will let me enter there? They were all very, very possessive people. They won't let me enter. They won't let me become an intervener. Then history was made. Supreme Court directed the registry to put me as an intervener in the main matter. So I have now come into the main matter. Then I went back to the Supreme Court. I said 6 years ago, nothing is happening. So please list it. So they listed it on 3rd. On 3rd of January, the Muslim parties said that all our documents are not in, the Arabic and Persian documents have not been translated. Now that was not correct, you see, because in Allahabad High Court they were translated and all the Muslim parties agreed it's a good translation. Then they said, no, the CD is given to me, some blank spaces are there. So court has adjourned it to 23rd. And then I told them that I have to go to America for, maybe we make it 27th. They said, no, your presence is not necessary because it's only a question of seeing document. And then we'll give you another day. But I didn't want to take any chance. Behind my back, God knows what will happen. That's why I curtailed my visit and I'm back on 22nd so that I can appear on 23rd. 23rd, I'm going to request the court, please hold day-to-day hearings.
Yes.
If day-to-day hearings are held, it will take just 2 months for me to win that case. And why do I say that? Because Narasimha Rao his government had given an affidavit. Narasimha was a very clever person, so he had directed his Solicitor General to give an affidavit that if there was a temple pre-existing to the masjid, then we will hand over the land to the Hindus to build a Ram temple. This is an affidavit, you see. So the Supreme Court then asked Allahabad High Court, conduct investigations to see whether there was a temple below. And in fact, the ASI, the Archaeological Survey of India, Government of India, and the most famous archaeologist called B.B. Lal, and another, his assistant called K. Mohammed, they both conducted excavation in the Babri Masjid site and reported and gave to the court that there was a large temple below the site where it was. And photographs show that the pillars of that temple were used to build the Babri Masjid also. And consequently, therefore, we have now government commitment that if it is proved that there was a temple before the masjid, then it will be given to Hindus. Now I'm asking our government also that you file an affidavit saying that yes, this should be given to Hindus. Second, the Muslim argument is ridiculous. What do you mean this property is yours? It was Ram Janmabhoomi Mandir property for ages. They say no, this by adverse possession. I don't know whether you legal people know, anybody here knows this concept of adverse possession. If you have a house and I occupy it and you don't protest for 12 years, then the house becomes mine. But we Hindus had protested every year. At least in the last 300 years, we must have at least 200, 300 people must have died in police firing and all that. So therefore, that argument won't stand. And I then spoke to Muslim leaders and said, why don't you agree that we both go to the Supreme Court, say we'll build a masjid, Government of India will give you the money also, don't worry, and some for your goodwill also, we'll give you some money. So let's send to Supreme Court. I spoke to Owaisi, I spoke to all Gilani, all these people. Owaisi tells me, this is a good solution, but I will not tell this to the Supreme Court. I said, why? He said, then everybody will say that I've taken money from Swamy and made a deal. So you get a Supreme Court order. So I have to argue this matter, and I am very, very confident that the Supreme Court will say that this area is Ram Janmabhoomi and the Muslims can build a masjid. And after that, I'll visit San Francisco again.